was almost caught by surprise here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Wow. Seems like just last night I was on the radio with one Kat Peterson. Oh, that's right, we were. My name is David Paul Blumenshine. This is the David Paul Blumenshine Show, and this show really is better. In fact, it's so much better. When you get involved, you can do that by calling in on our studio line at 309-451-9299. That's 309-451-9299. And our text line is always open, 24/7, 365. Feel free to text anything. We want to hear from you. We've got to hear from you. We want to know that you are participating in this process, this movement that we have just got started on. And that is recapturing. Tony, are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
You seem a little perplexed.
I can hear some music in my ears right now, but I don't know why, quite frankly.
Well, Tony stepped in for one Kat Peterson. Kat was with us yesterday. She filled in for Tony on the Ty Smith show, and then did a fill-in for Steve Cease, where she invited me to come in, and so both of us were teaming up. So Tony's okay over there. It just seemed like you were perplexed by something. No more music in the air?
It's still there, but
I can hear it a little bit, Tony.
I don't know what it is, quite frankly.
We're going to try to get this worked out, but I'm going to go ahead and talk through it. So our text line is 309-807-1600, 309-807-1600, and you can text us. But hey, you know, in this ever-changing world that we live in, taking one from the Beatles, and you're right, I can still pick it up, Tone. I don't know if our audience is hearing that. If you are hearing that, I'm going to go ahead and talk through it a little bit. We're going to try to get it worked out in studio. But ever-changing world we live in, the Beatles. I just don't want to jump into the topics that we have before us today. We're going to have my friend David Quinn, who not only has this honor run every Tuesday night where it is Team Blue Line, which is a non-for-profit organization. And he's going to be in studio in the second hour of the show. And we really want to dig into some of the things he's doing to bring awareness to Bloomington Normal and beyond, as I say, about the pressures currently that exist in law enforcement. And we know that that is ahead of this event that we have on August 29th. We have Back the Blue Rally at formerly GE Park. It's now the Police Benevolent Park. And so that goes from 2 to 4 on August 29th, and they'll be selling T-shirts. In fact, they were just doing that here in our parking lot on Thursday night. I anticipate they'll be doing that again here in our parking lot in anticipation of the event that will take place. We're going to ask David to talk a little bit about that, but like I started, is this ever-changing world we live in. There's so many things happening here locally, in Springfield, in the national capital, the federal government. However, we have to pause. I was just reading because, you know, what is going on right now in Haiti is horrific. I can only speak from firsthand experience. My wife and I have been to Haiti. We actually took short-term mission trips there, and it was devastating when we started going back in 2015. That was just 5 years after the major earthquake, which measured 7.0 on the Richter scale. That's the magnitude of the earthquake that hit then in 2010, and then since then, you know, you're probably aware of it. There's been many other natural disasters, from hurricanes, subtle earthquakes, and tropical storms that have basically continued to just create devastation. And then more from the humanistic standpoint, the assassination just recently of the president of that country. It just continues to seem like something that doesn't stop. This misery never ends. And now, yesterday, they registered a 7.2 magnitude earthquake off the coast, the southern peninsula of Haiti. And it right now reports are thousands of people once again. And it's kind of eerie because that was the report that came out of Haiti originally when the 2010 earthquake hit. It started out in the hundreds and then it built to the thousands were missing. And granted, it's not. Yep. I think you've got it. I've got talkback going on. There we go. Well, hey, if you're on the other end and you're hearing this, bear with us. We're working through it. All right, we're going to try. And all I'm getting is an echo going back. Try it again?
Yep, it should be here now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tony. Tony's working at home. I wonder what Kat was doing over there. Was she hitting buttons that she shouldn't have been hitting?
I don't know. This isn't... Something's acting up right now, that's for sure.
You know what Kat would say?
Oh, I fixed it, man.
You did? Now I can't hear me. No, I can't
You
hear
can't hear yourself?
Can't hear myself. But that's all right. I don't need to hear myself.
Okay.
Unless you can work that out. But like I was saying, this is horrific what is happening in Haiti. And just so you know, Tony, I'm on mic 3B, if you're trying to dial that in. Thank you. There you go. All right. Tony's got it all worked out.
There we go.
Tony! Thank you.
Feeling comfy now.
Hey, you know what? And I can continue to flow through it. It is confusing, but it is live radio. So we have to go with what we've got. Mm-hmm. And you're doing a great job. I appreciate Tony getting that dialed in. But for you as the audience, like we were talking about, to understand the impact of this tragedy in Haiti, we just need to be mindful. Hearts, thoughts, prayers go out to the people of Haiti. If you, there's many churches here in the Bloomington Normal area, in the McLean County area, in central Illinois, that do things with Haiti. And as far as missionaries, please reach out to them. They are going to need all the support they can get. It is devastating to know, being on the ground. My wife and I, like I said, we started out in 2015. We were there in 2017. And then we were to be back there in 2018. And I ended up on a small stint in the hospital. So the trip that we planned, well, the trip went ahead and went. We just didn't go as leading the trip. We weren't able to go back in 2019 because of the state of emergency that was there. And then, of course, 2020, the group that we usually are there with, they had to be airlifted out because of the disruption. So,
jeez.
Hold on. Okay. Can you hear me now? It's 1:12. I should ask my wife's monitoring. My wife's very good about listening to the show. She just sent me a text that says, we don't hear it.
I mean, you should. We're on.
I'm going to wait for my wife here to see. Now I got the loud feedback in the ear.
Well, this is...
Okay, that's better.
I mean, how about, are we good?
Okay, my wife says we're good.
Okay.
So don't touch anything, Tony.
I'm not touching anything.
Do not touch that dial. That's the old... Tony, you were too young to remember that. Don't touch that dial. That was I think it was the Underdog, but that's a whole nother thing. But they did re-release Underdog, didn't they?
Underdog, yeah.
On a movie? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely watched that.
I'm not thinking that I'm like just dreaming that up, but hey, it sounds like we're all good. But once again, most importantly, dealing with, the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Haiti is something that we need to be very mindful of if you can, and you're in a position to do that. And I understand we've all been through this craziness. I call it COVID crazy, COVID chaos, where we don't even fully we're not even beginning to scratch the scratch of what's truly going on. Tony and I were actually talking about that before I came on air, is that, in preparing for a show like this, we're trying to get you the most current information that's out there to make sure that we are bringing to our audience information that helps you to be better informed about what we face here, not only locally, but as a statewide basis, and then at the national level. And there's plenty of it, and it's never ending because the news cycle never ends. So, just be mindful. The people of Haiti, it's out there. It's on our social media page. That's where I was just reading a story from on our social media page. Was a story from the Daily Wire where they covered it. Obviously, the magnitude of the earthquake was 0.2 higher than the one that struck in 2010. I'm sure that as time goes on, they're going to continue to, find out that the death toll is greater than it is. Fortunately, or I guess if there's any, saving grace to this horrific natural disaster, is it did not hit as hard in Port-au-Prince, which is the most densely populated area of Haiti. However, there was never the ability to put things back together in Haiti since 2010. When it comes, granted, it is called Port-au-Prince, and it is a port, but unfortunately, very few people import things to Port-au-Prince, and there's very little being exported. So it is a third world country. It is the most, or I should say, it is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere is Haiti. So, and let us all be mindful and prayerful of what's going on down there. Our hearts go out to the people of Haiti. So if you're just dialing in, this is David Paul Blumenshine at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I don't want to bring us too far down, but I do believe that we need to be mindful of the people in Haiti. That's what we began the show off with. It looked like we had technical difficulties, but thankfully my wife is one of the 17 listeners to the show.
Oh, yeah.
So, 7, maybe 18. Maybe
we're waiting for that good old 18.
We're growing in numbers by the day, but you can catch us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, every Sunday from 1 to 3. Usually, Kat is in here, but today Tony stepped in. She stepped in for Tony yesterday and then did a double shift and handled Steve Cease's show where I came on, and we covered a lot of ground. Mostly what we were covering yesterday was about the mask mandates. And, we're going to continue to hit upon that over and over again. And in fact, I was just sharing with Tony before we went on air that we have some audio, and I want to play that for you because this is a clip from the Senate committee meeting from May 27, 2021, wherein House Bill 2789 was being considered by the Executive Committee of the Senate. The bill passed the committee, but then it died on the Senate floor and was not made into law. Democrat Senator Christopher Belt is speaking in this audio, explaining this bill and why it was important. We need to authorize ISB to be able to enforce these rules up to and including suspending recognition status, he says. The short clip tells you all you need to hear, but the complete hearing is an hour long and goes into detail about taking away local control from school districts during an emergency and giving ISB, which is the Illinois State Board of Education, the authority to punish school districts who don't comply. This is direct proof ISB is exceeding their authority and cannot suspend recognition status and impact funding for not following this guidance during an emergency. Local control is still the rule of law, as that is what Senator Belt was advocating needed to change. ISB, Illinois State Board of Education, does not yet have the power, and this is direct proof. Listen closely and share to every corner of the state. Also, demand your state representatives put an end to this. Ring their darn phones off the hook. This is direct quote from one Thomas DeVore, who is the attorney that Governor J.B. Pritzker says hasn't won a case yet that he's filed against him, which is really cocky from the governor. The fact that somebody even has to file suit against you, Governor, is not a very good sign of your tenure as our leader of the state of Illinois, as the governor of Illinois. But I think we're going to have enough time. You know what? I know how this thing works, Tony. and it's going to jump on me here shortly. So
yeah.
I don't know if we're going to be able to play that until we come back for break, but I do want to get to that clip. And it is up on our social media page. You can always find pretty much everything we talk about on air. We do a very good job of sharing that on Facebook. You can find that at City's 92.9 Facebook page. You can also pull up our app at any time and stream any of our programming. If you miss any of our shows, like for instance, if you miss Kat Peterson filling in for Steve Cease yesterday, that's on our website too, and that's at cities929.com. So, with that, we are going to get to this piece when we come back from our commercial, and of course, as I started to tease that, here it comes, as I knew it would. We will be back. And it just launches on you, but we've got all the technical difficulties worked out, so we're looking forward to hit the ground running when we come back from break. Please join us. We look forward to it. Well, we're back, and I think we've got all the technical difficulties in studio worked out.
Oh, yeah.
My wife, who is my number one radio fan, we talked to her during the break, and she said that you guys could never hear anything that we were hearing here in studio. So I'm very thankful to the guy over there, as Scott Robbins always says to Kat, Tony. And Tony's in it for Kat today because Kat was doing double duty yesterday. She was not only producing the Ty Smith Cancel This show, but our very own Ty Smith, the modern Renaissance man, also known as the modern Renaissance man, Ty Smith, Cancel This. She did that duty, and then she turned around and did the 5 to 7 show for Steve Cease. And that's actually going to be changing to Sunday. It's going to be the Steve Cease show on Sunday. I think that's going to be from 10 to 12, and then I will come on in from 1 to 3.
Sweet.
So were you aware of that, Tony?
I was not aware of that.
Well, it is happening.
That's nice.
Hey, if you're just joining us, and we always appreciate it when you listen to our show here on Sunday. In fact, we couldn't do it without you. And here in the weekends, we happen to be the number one station when it comes to live weekend radio.
Like
local radio. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it better.
Nobody, man.
I love it. I love it. But I started saying something about you, Tony, and I think it's important that our audience understands this. Tony does so much around here in our station, and I am always giving him the Bronze Award. In fact, I said I was going to build a statue for him, and it is. He's worthy of that. I'm going to disclose something that I don't know if Tony wants me to, but Tony is just graduated from Bloomington High School. And to see this young person, when you talk about whether we have faith and hope in the future, Tony exemplifies faith and hope for this generation that's coming up. He tackles so many things around here, and it's with a smile. He's respectful. He obviously can be on air. He can do promo videos. I mean, if only I were there at 18, 19 years of age, I might not be here today. It was fumbling, bumbling, and stumbling to get to this position, which is on the air with you. And so I do appreciate that. We respect and honor you as listeners. If you'd like to participate in our show today, by all means, either phone in to the studio line at 309-451-9299, or you can text in at 309-807-1600. Before we went to break, we want to be mindful and prayerful of what's going on in Haiti. It's horrific. Who knows where that's going to go? There are plenty of opportunities, I'm sure, to give to the people of Haiti. It's a devastated country. It's politically, it's a disaster. Economically, it's a disaster. Environmentally, unfortunately, it's a disaster because of the fact politically, and there is no means of, deforestation. You can't even begin to understand what goes on the ground in Haiti. And to contrast with the rich and luscious border country, which is, there's two countries on the island of it used to be called, and I just drew a blank. See, that's great. I thought I had it on the tip of my tongue. El Española or something like that. It was one island before it became the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And if you are flying over in the air, you can see the definite demarcation of the border, where it's rich and luscious and green in the Dominican and not so much in Haiti. So our hearts go out to Haiti. But before we went to break, I was telling you a little bit of Thomas DeVore. And one of the posts that is up on our social media page, so you can find that at Cities 92.9. But Tom put up a video of the Senate hearing minutes, proved that got that. Oh, we've got a break again?
Yeah, man.
Man, I just was getting into it.
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
Well, I'm going to play this for you when we come back. I keep talking about it. But we're going to play it when we come back. Please come back and join us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yeah, here we go again. We're just getting started, Tony. This thing is not going to go away. This whole mask versus no mask, vax versus no mask, vax. But we're definitely going to talk about the mandating of either one of those things. And that's what we left off with before we went to break. If you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, I'm David Paul Blumenshine. We're here every Sunday from 1 to 3. In fact, we have the most live talk radio on the weekend, locally here at Cities. So please join us. You got Ty Smith, the modern Renaissance man, from 3 to 5 on Saturdays. Steve Cease from 5 to 7, which he will be moving to Sundays. So he will be preceding yours truly at the David Paul Blumenshine Show. He'll go from 10 to 12. I will go from 1 to 3. We will be here. Our text line is always open. You can get that at 309-807-1600. Or you can call into the live studio line at 309-451-9299. But without further ado, before break, we were talking about this craziness of where things stand between the school boards and, their decision to go mask optional or to go masking of the student body at any public school system, K through 12. And Tom DeVore, I read from Tom DeVore, he put this up just yesterday. In fact, I went ahead and grabbed it and put it up on our social media page at Cities 92.9. And I'm going to play that for you. It's the Senate hearing minutes, which is about this particular legislation, HB 2789. So without further ado, here we go. Let me just re-cue that real quick.
2789, Senator Belch. And Senator, before you begin, let me look at your witness slips. You have 132 proponents, 16,418 opponents, 73 no position. Senator, go ahead and explain your bill. Oh, we have the amendment. Senator Cunningham moves to adopt Senate Committee Amendment 1 to House Bill 2789. Is there leave to adopt the amendment? Leave being granted. Senator, go ahead and present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2789, as amended, provides that the State Board of Education must adopt rules to address schools and education license holders who do not comply with public health requirements established by the Department of Public Health when the governor has declared an emergency. Additionally, the bill provides a complaint procedure to report schools that do not comply with the requirements when the governor has declared an emergency. Lastly, the bill states that for non-public school recognition, they must provide assurance that they will comply with these health requirements when the governor has declared an emergency. Madam Chair, this bill it's triggered whenever the governor has declared a state of emergency. Once a state of emergency has been declared, the IDPH sets the parameters and the metrics for school districts during the time of the emergency. No different, and those parameters will be consistent with the CDC. No different than what we do right now. What the amendment did, it's also brought in a complaint procedure. So say, for instance, in this pandemic, if you go to school XYZ and you see 2 or 3 faculty members not, in the case of COVID, not wearing a mask, it says then that you could follow these steps to file a complaint to your local health department. Your local health department then will come down to look at the situation and see if the situation can be remedied, whatever that may be. And whether it's closing of a classroom, whether it's just putting back on your mask and remedying that whole situation. Finally, it authorizes ISB to be able to enforce the rules up to the point of non-recognition for those schools who don't comply with the parameters set by the IDPH.
Okay. You just heard it here, and we're going to continue to keep this up. I'm going to repost it on our social media.
Yeah.
If you heard the senator speak about this legislation, that legislation is not law. In fact, it came out of committee, and it got to a point, and I know we have a caller, and I want to get to our caller. I'm going to get to our caller here in a second. So hang with us out there if you're on the line. Hopefully you're listening. And
I think it might have been George.
Oh, George. George has been a frequent. But before I get to George, if it is George, but caller, if it's George, hold on, because I want to step this back a little bit, what the senator was saying about this piece of legislation. Got a committee, got to the House floor, went to the Senate floor to basically be signed in, and it did not pass. Now, we know that there were 16,000 witness slips in opposition to this legislation. 16,000.
Wow.
You as a listener and our audience have the opportunity to present those witness slips on behalf of any legislation. And we're going to do a little tutorial here on one of my shows on how to do that. But let's get back to what Tom DeVore said. And then I'm going to bring George on if it is indeed George. He said that this was on May 27th, 2021. This was last school year, at the end of last school year. The executive committee of the Senate was who was looking at this. The bill passed the committee, but then died on the Senate floor and was not made into law. It's the very instrument that is needed to allow the governor to do what he's currently doing. Unfortunately, it didn't get passed. And why did it not get passed? In fact, Tom DeVore says the Democrat Senator Christopher Velt is speaking in this audio explaining this bill and why it was important. We need to authorize ISB, which is the Illinois State Board of Education, to be able to enforce these rules up to and including suspending recognition status, he says. The short clip tells you all you need to hear, but the complete hearing is an hour long and goes into detail about taking away local control from school districts during an emergency and giving the Illinois State Board of Education the authority to punish school districts who don't comply. This is a direct proof that the Illinois State Board of Education is exceeding their authority and cannot suspend recognition status and impact funding for not following this guidance during an emergency. Basically, hence the reason it probably didn't pass, because if they did pass it, they would have admitted that the governor himself this whole time has been in violation of the Constitution of Illinois, which would only be brought into court, and it would go crazy from there. Go ahead and bring our caller on.
Alrighty. George.
George, is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Hey.
George is back. George, I think we should just bring you in on the weekend and have you in studio. That way you would save you making a call, right?
That'd be
Then I don't
quite
have
the
to call,
hoot.
right?
That's right. Hey, George, what have you got today, my friend?
Well, people have this problem in this country. They vote and they walk away. They don't call up. They don't watch what the politicians are doing. People don't understand something. I don't care. I would never call, as much as I like Trump, I would never call him Mr. President. He's hired help. Everybody is hired. The garbage man up to the President of the United States are hired help. Mm-hmm. The difference is the garbage man saves more lives than doctors, and more die nationwide than police and firemen because of their job. Look at our cities. Look at Bloomington. Look at the Chicago, where they don't have a good garbage force. But people don't call up and complain to the people they elect. They say, "Oh, I elected him, so he can do it." He can't do the job. We see what they're not doing.
You know, George, you bring up a good point. I don't know if you've heard us talking about this earlier when we let off the program, but my wife and I have a heart for the people of Haiti because we've spent time on the ground in Haiti. And you talk about an environmental disaster. Mm-hmm. They do not have waste control, waste management, I should say, on the island of Haiti. Once again, you're mentioning a garbage man probably saves more lives than doctors. Well, that's true. They're taking out the garbage. They're taking it to the dump. I mean, that is important. And when you have garbage accumulating into mountains, because there's only one way they get rid of that garbage on the island of Haiti. You know how that is, George?
Yeah, seagulls eat it and pile it up.
There is the varmints and the lizards that eat it, but they burn it, right? Mm-hmm. They burn everything.
And I mean, that only leads to more illness. And
oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, because they're breathing in that.
Yeah.
I tell people, if you ever get an opportunity to go to a third world country, there's one thing that will stick with you forever. And it does in a lot of other, instances in our lives when we have gotten something into our noses, mm-hmm. where we've smelt something. Mm-hmm. And especially it either can be a sweet fragrance that creates a great memory, or it can be a pungent smell, a stench, mm-hmm. And can you imagine, and that's unfortunately what's going to transpire in the next few days, is the stench of rotting human flesh, but the stench of burning garbage of all types in Haiti because they don't have the means of getting rid of it. Now, not to say it's all like that, because there is garbage disposal in Haiti, but it is very limited, and it's a nightmare. But I do appreciate you tying us back into Haiti. Thank you, George. But you're right, George. The President of the United States, it works for us. We don't work for him. He works for us. And that's something I think we lose sight of. All of these elected officials. The school board, every one of those agencies, even though they are appointed into those positions mm-hmm. by the state of Illinois, usually the governor puts into place those people. They hire their staff as needed. But all of those people, ISB, the Illinois State Board of Education, the Illinois Department of Public Health, they work for us. Dr. Ezeki, mm-hmm. Dr. Fauci, the highest paid public employee, works for you and I.
He makes more money than the president.
He makes more money than president. See, George, you're up to snuff on this stuff, which is true. Hey, George, I'm going to give you about a minute more, and then we've got to go to break. Go ahead. You hit it.
I'll tell you what I did. I called up Adam Kinzinger's office when he went for that second impeachment, and I told his staff how big a coward he is.
And you know what?
When every time he sends a flyer out, he's got his uniform on in front of his jet airplane. If I had a son or daughter in the Air Force, I wouldn't want him to be their co-pilot or wingman. I couldn't trust him.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the movie Stripes, right, George? I'll be behind you every step of the way. Whenever anybody that's going into combat says they'll be behind you every step of the way, you know that you're out in front of them.
Oh, yeah. You're the meat shield.
That's right.
Well, my daughter wanted to go in and get an education and save up her money.
Well, as you can tell, George, we got to go to break. We do appreciate you calling in. Hey, George, we'll look forward to the next time here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. It is Sunday and it is the weekend, and I'm David Paul Blumenshine here at Cities 92.9, the news of talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, before we went to break, we do appreciate you joining us here on Sundays and the weekends, because we know that we provide more live talk than any other station gosh, I think in all of central Illinois. In fact, I don't think that I'm wrong with that, right, Tony? Nobody's doing it better than City's 92.9.
Nobody.
And we're going to continue to do it because we think it's critical, especially in times like these. And before we went to break, I know we had our favorite George on the phone talking about things that George likes to talk about. But George is usually spot on with his points. First and foremost, whether it's the president or it's somebody working for the federal government, which right now happens to be about 14.5% of people in the United States of America work for... Or no, I should say 14.5% of the employment in the United States of America is under public service. Can you imagine that? It's almost 15% of the people working in this country work in whether it's the federal government, the state government, or local government. That's a pretty good amount of people, right?
Yeah.
So when George says that it doesn't matter if you're the garbage man, dumping garbage at the White House or whatever, or you're the president, you still work for us. That is the key, and we were talking about Tom DeVore and this whole thing with this Senate bill, or I should say the House bill that went to the Senate, came out of committee and was not voted into law. However, we are operating currently in our state as if that is law. And that's where we've got to get this thing straightened out. I don't think, anyone is too upset about the fact that we understand mask, no mask, mask, no mask. It's having mandates put down. I believe we're anti-mandate when it comes to things like that. And what is going on between the governor, ISB, and Illinois Department of Public Health is pure gamemanship. And don't think for a second, and I know our audience is sophisticated. I'm going to use the word sophisticated. I don't know if you heard that or not, that the reason that everybody was able to join President Obama, former President Barack Obama, at his 60th birthday party without masking, there were like 600 of them, Tony.
Yeah.
They had a list of 750, but he wanted to make sure he brought it down a few so he didn't have the risk of exposure.
We'll knock
150 off. But it was reported that they were sophisticated.
Oh.
Well, and that's the thing. I believe our audience is sophisticated to understand what's going on. When you start looking around the way they walk around this current issue, it blows my mind. And then I start reading some of social media. I don't advise doing that very often. It can really make you feel like you need to seek help. Because it's just as confusing, right?
Yeah.
So many people are so wrapped up into their side of the argument. Tony and I know we were talking about this before we went on air today, that what took place prior to COVID?
Like what?
We had other viruses, right?
Well, yeah, we've had many viruses, like forever and ever.
Yeah, for as long as you can remember, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're 19 years of age, right? So it was for as long as you've been alive?
Yeah.
We've had viruses here?
I've been getting flu shots since I was a kid,
Well, see, there's something else. When I was a kid, we didn't get flu shots. Now, we did get booster shots. And I have an arm that shows a scar from getting booster shots. So, and once again, I'm not anti-vax. And I believe a lot of people aren't anti-vax. And those people that are, I've looked at a lot of their arguments, and they're credible arguments.
Yeah.
And they've got documentation to support their arguments. Okay. That's not the issue at hand.
Yeah.
The thing is, we have had viruses. Now, somebody said, well, this virus is like no other virus. No, it is not. Because as 57 years of age, as 19 years of age, you look at these things from a perspective of limited scope.
Yeah.
None of us have ever been a part of the Spanish flu. That basically almost did away.
Yeah.
Well, it did. It killed. The mortality on that was like a couple million people. You see some of those numbers. And that was at the turn of the century, right? In the 1900s. Can you imagine the devastation where people were walking around? And granted, you even saw back then that they tried to do everything to mitigate it. And part of that was putting cloth over their face to try to avoid the spread, whether that's either contracting it themselves or spreading it to someone else.
There's like the plague doctor masks with the giant beak and stuff like that. Like,
well, we had one of those at the rally the other day. If you're aware of it or not, we had a freedom rally down at the courthouse that I was at. Actually, it was good to be there. I love to hear the argument that isn't usually.
Well, here we go.
Here we go again.
Already.
We keep running out of time with these bumping. Hey, we're going to hit it hard when we come back. We have David Quinn. He is with Team Blue Line. It's a non-for-profit Oh, hey, I'm back. Am I back?
Oh, yeah, we're back.
What happened?
Well, we just got a little bit of a dead air for a second.
Well,
we're back for like a minute or so.
Anyhow, like I was saying, David Quinn is going to be with us next hour, and he's with Team Blue Line. They are a non-for-profit organization. David does something very special for this community every Tuesday night, and in fact, I'm inviting all of you to come out where we honor and basically get our bodies active for the people who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And it's a very special thing that we do. We, once again, encourage everybody to come out and join us. But also, David's going to be part of what we have coming up at the end of the month. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from break.
This is a fun...
Sundays here at Cities 92.9. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. You can find us here from 1 to 3 every Sunday. In fact, here at Cities 92.9, we have the most talk in Bloomington, Normal, and beyond on the weekends, featuring Ty Smith, Steve Cease, and myself. And we always appreciate it when you're listening. And if you'd like to participate, please give us a call at 309-451-9299, or you can text us at our text line, 309-807-1600. Before we went to break, we've covered a little ground. This isn't going to go away. In fact, if you were with us last week, I keep asking the same question. And it can be applied to so many areas of our lives. When is the emergency going to go away? When is the emergency? When are we going to stop living in crisis mode, in fear? And that seems to be what's popular and what sells. In fact, has never been more evident than in our law enforcement. And everything that, when we talk about JB, you talk about someone who has injected themselves into more areas of the lives of people in Illinois. And now he has signed legislation that directly impacts our law enforcement statewide. And it has caused a major exodus amongst law enforcement. In fact, hiring right now in law enforcement in Illinois is a high order because we're finding fewer and fewer people are wanting to get into law enforcement, which is really sad. In fact, with that said, if you were with us before break, I did say that we have a special guest in studio today. This young man, and I call him a young man, he's my age. I always refer to him as young man. I refer to him as a young man because I've watched him bike and I've watched him run and I keep a track of him as he does his triathlons. But he has his own little mission in life, and that is to be part of Team Blue Line, and it is a non-for-profit organization. And I'm going to not try to go too deep into the weeds of something I don't really know, other than he is a great resource for our community. Let us welcome my friend and former law enforcement officer, David Quinn. David, thanks for joining us here in studio.
Thanks, David Paul. I appreciate it.
Tell us about, first, let's just do the Tuesday night thing, because I know we want to get as many people involved in what we're doing here on Tuesday nights. And I say we now because I've actually showed up 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I was surprised to see you out there the first day. I know I've been hounding you about coming out there, and finally you actually showed up. And, you had those injuries before, and now you're just up and moving around.
Well, it's actually the hip replacement. It's been hard coming back. The first one, I ended up bouncing back a little quicker. I did do 3 5Ks, and I'm pretty certain that my surgeon would never recommend that I do any running on my hips. But I did do that at the end of 2019, and that's when I realized going into 2020 that I was going to need a second hip. So I waited all the way through 2020, got the second hip done in December. So now here it is in August, and I think I showed up well, no, it was the beginning of August. So I got 7 months behind me from the surgery. Well, actually 8 months, and I'm ready to go after it. Now, I will tell you, it's not a run that I'm doing. It doesn't even quite resemble a run, but I try to get in the 2 miles when we do this little event. And you can do up to what? 5K.
Up to 5K, yeah.
So tell us about it.
Yeah, we got it measured out. You can either walk, run, stroll. We've had people come out there in their wheelchairs and speed along the trail there. And we just got it marked out. You can do it any distance that you want. You can do it any speed you want. We just come out and, we honor the people that have fallen the last 7 days. Now, this is the second year we've been doing this. Last year, we only missed 1 week of not having an officer killed in the line of duty, but we did show up and we ran because they had a canine that was killed in the line of duty. So we actually honored that canine and his handler for that honor run that Tuesday night. And we've had as many people as 89 people show up, and usually our average of our core group is right around 15 to 20 people.
And that is every Tuesday night. It's there at the pavilion on GE Road.
Correct.
Just before you get to the corner. If you're heading east on GE, before you get to Airport Road, there's a pavilion there. It is on the north side of the road, and there's a parking lot there. And basically, we go right down the trail, and then we come back, whether you do the 100-yard dash or whether you do the full 5K.
That's correct. We got it measured out, and after everybody gets there, we start right at 6 o'clock. The gun goes off, or I just say go, and we honor the people prior to that, the officers that have lost their lives in the previous week before that. I'll say a little bit about that prior to us going, and we just step up to the line and we go.
Well, the thing that I was telling David this off air before we came back on air is that I was really impressed with, not only do we honor the people who are killed in the line of duty, but we do talk about the people who that lose their lives in the line of duty.
Yeah.
Because, there are situations when somebody has a cardiac event while they're on call. There's for every reason that we can see health-wise, that impacts our law enforcement. And they're out there, every day to protect and serve. And during that time on their job, they could lose their life.
That's correct. And I think a lot of officers are actually seeing that now and actually getting more fit. A lot of officers I still talk to off the job, this I've been gone for over 1.5 years now. They're out there working out. They're out there putting the time in. They're out there practicing jiu-jitsu and the hands-on combat stuff. So they're actually putting the extra effort so they stay safe while they're doing the job.
Well, and it can't be a profession. Obviously, we know the stress that goes behind putting on the uniform, right? Putting on all the equipment, being out there on call, knowing that you're out in this environment where it's gotten a little crazy. That's why I think this new legislation that the governor signed into law is very disturbing. It disturbs me, especially with the movement of defunding the police and all that goes with that. But the person of the humanistic side of this thing, you guys are out there. How well do you eat? How well, where do you eat? You're out on call.
Always on the go.
You're always on the go. So, getting the nutritional value, living a life of wellness,
right.
That's something that, can't be easy. And that's something that we also need to be very mindful of, that people are there, like all of us, just living through life. And who knows, especially in stressful positions, which you guys are in.
I do believe being a police officer is a calling. And so, there's a lot of shift work to be done. So everybody doesn't work from 7 o'clock in the morning until 3. You got guys that work from 3 to 11. You got guys that work midnight shift, 11 to 7. That in itself is not a healthy lifestyle and to go with, especially if you're not getting enough sleep. So you got the nutrition side, you got the sleep side, plus you got the stressors of everyday life, family life, and the job life.
How many people do you currently train? I know that you do a lot of the training, but is a big portion of that law enforcement, firefighters?
At this particular time, no, I don't have any athletes of mine that are actually in law enforcement or firefighters. Mm-hmm. I have guys contact me all the time, what should I do this day, or look at my training plan, am I doing the right thing? Yes, I actually help them out that way, but I don't have any actual athletes right now that are actually firefighters or law enforcement.
So our audience, if you're listening here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, we're talking with former officer David Quinn, and he is part of a non-for-profit organization called Team Blue Line. And they get together every Tuesday night out at Tipton Park, on the south side of Tipton Park along JE Road, to do a honor run, walk, crawl, whatever you can do, roll with a wheelchair if you happen to have the need for a wheelchair. And it's a great event. They cover all the fallen officers. In fact, I know that David has come equipped with some of the numbers of what we're dealing with on a given year. He just shared with you that we only took 1 week off last year. See, I've already started saying we because I feel part of this. I got the hat and the shirt last.
You're right there. Yeah.
I got the hat and the shirt last year. It just took me 8 months or 10 months to get there because that was last August when we did the event to Back the Blue, right?
Back the Blue. Yeah.
Down at GE Road. And I got to yell at Tony real quick. There we go. My clock went away, Tony. I can't have my clock going away.
I'm on top of it.
Because my progressive bifocals can't pick up on that little clock. But I was out there at Back the Blue last year, and it was a great event. There were, I think, somewhere around 600 to 800 people.
It was a great event, yeah.
Great event. And that was the beginning of this whole defund the police movement. And I'm not trying to get deep into the weeds of politics because everything has become political, right? I mean, even the governor has interjected himself into so many facets of our lives. We're seeing that where it's being demonstrated, manifesting itself in the craziness we're going through with our school systems now and going back to school. But it also is in law enforcement. And so give us some of those raw numbers of who's impacted, how we're impacted by this on any given day. I mean, I know that they're big. I mean, it's kind of crazy, and especially in light of what transpired last Saturday night in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
We keep hearing this. We covered this yesterday. Kat and I were talking about on Steve Cease's show. You know, I'm just getting to the point that where we know what's going to happen week in, week out, but yet are those people who are responsible for making these decisions have done very little to stop and shut that thing off. I mean, we're not even at a trickle. The numbers aren't going down.
No, I think the numbers are actually going to go up.
Yeah.
Officers are on a high sense of safety right now, and that they have been for several years since this defund the police have come out. And it just seems that, I mean, there's a whole gamut of things that I could get into, whether it's education, whether it's parenting, whether it's just a bunch of other things. But the numbers in itself, I get off officerdown.com. And the line of duty deaths this year, we've had 199. And that's just from January. Now, they are relating the COVID deaths on duty deaths at this particular time. But officers that were killed in line of duty just from gunfire itself this year have been 37, and that numbers are rising. And Ella French, the Chicago PD officer that was killed last week, was number 37. And we also got to keep in mind that her partner, keep him in your thoughts and prayers too, because he's going to be battling for a long time, and he's still in critical care up there in Chicago. So keep that in mind. And
I did read this morning, though, that it's Carlos, right?
Carlos, yes.
Carlos. I did read this morning somewhere that Carlos is actually wanting to push the limits a little bit with some of his therapy, and which is just crazy. The fact that he doesn't even have movement of his arms and his legs yet. And, you know, we're talking a week out. This goes to show you the intestinal fortitude of our law enforcement officers. You know, I am so passionate about the people who protect and serve, whether that's our first responders in the hospitals, whether that's our firefighters, whether that's our law enforcement. Those are the people that, to me, mean more to our communities than any other. But to see a guy like this that is wanting to get himself back in a position of therapy.
Right.
It's
but
crazy.
we're trained to be survivors.
Yeah.
I mean, all the training that we go through, and that's a lot of training, but there could be more training that police officers can go through. But if you're a survivor, you're going to pull through a lot.
Well, keep Carlos, obviously, in your prayers. We keep to be mindful of him. I don't know when they will lay to rest Ella, did they haven't
have
done
not
it.
made
I
seen the
don't think
arrangements
that,
yet.
yeah, they haven't made arrangements yet. So we want to keep her family in our thoughts and prayers too. This is horrific. This has got to stop. We have got to stop having honor runs on Tuesday night. I look forward to that day. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I can be hopeful to know that we can get this thing righted again. But keep going through the numbers there, David.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of officers that have been stabbed. 9/11 illnesses, they're still calculating those. Assaults on officers. We've had officers that have drowned in the line of duty. And it just goes on and on and on. And you mentioned it before, the health perspective. There's been 10 officers died of a heart attack while on duty. There was one just like we honored him last week. They were doing a warrant service down in Kentucky, and the officer succumbed with a heart attack. And he was a younger gentleman too, maybe 42, 43 years old. So I know a lot of guys, like I said before, that they're taking health into consideration along with what the job offers. Now, Team Blue Line also takes care of the guys that are injured on the line of duty, or the guys that suffer with PTSD. And we've got into this last year or so purchasing service dogs for officers that are having those internal battles. And we've donated probably 5 or 6 service dogs in the last year to officers that are in need of that particular assistance.
You know, I think this is the part of Team Blue Line that I'm starting to become more aware of, is this philanthropic thing that you guys are a non-for-profit and you do try to support. Here we go again.
Here we go.
Before you know it, it goes from 5 minutes. I don't know. Hey, this is David Paul Blumenshine at Cities 92.9. We're going to come back with David Quinn and Team Blue Line after break. We hope you guys come back. That's right. Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. Here on Sundays from 1 to 3. In fact, here at Cities 92.9, we have the most talk, conservative talk. On the weekends, nobody has more live talk than we do. We started out on Saturdays with Ty Smith, a.k.a. the Modern Renaissance Man. You can look Ty up on YouTube. He is a phenomenal young man, and once again, everybody I call young man. I seem to have that habit of doing that. I guess when you get older, you refer to other people that are not too much younger than yourself as young men. It's a good thing. But Ty's a great resource for our community. He does a lot of public speaking. In fact, he was at the Freedom Rally giving a shout out. He will be speaking at the upcoming picnic that the McLean County Republican Party is sponsoring on August 29th, which happens to be the same day as the Back the Blue rally. So they go back to back. You go back the Blue rally from 2 to 4, and then you go from 4 to, or I think it's 4:30 to whenever, I think it's 6 or 7 o'clock. The McLean County Republican Party, you can find that at the McLean County Republican Party or the McLean County GOP site. If you'd like to get tickets, Ty will be out there. Darren Bailey will be out there. And then the final keynote speaker is Matt Lane, who will be running for McLean County Sheriff. So you'll have an opportunity to do that. Hey, before we went to break, if you were with us, we have former officer David Quinn, who is part of Team Blue Line, in studio with us. And we were covering so much. One of the things that we definitely want to encourage you to do, if you have time on Tuesday nights, come out to Tipton Trails, Tipton Park, on the south side along GE Road. They have an honor run, walk, or roll every Tuesday night. They promptly at 6 o'clock, they go ahead and start. That's after David does a recap of any of the officers that have fallen during the course of the last week. He was saying earlier that we've only had 1 week that we didn't have that, but we did end up running anyway because we honored a fallen police service dog.
That's correct, yeah.
So we were saying that you guys are a non-for-profit. You do so much with the resources you have to help officers who are going through a plethora of different things. Give us an idea of what that's all about, David.
Well, this all started back when a buddy of mine, Chad Wallace, he's from Georgia, felt the need that there needed to be some help for officers that were lost in the line of duty for their families. And also the officers that are injured in line of duty, and also ones that suffer from PTSD. So he saw that need, and with that, he started racing. He was actually training for his first Ironman race back in 2015, and then he finished that particular race carrying a blue line flag. And with Team Blue Line, we've all kind of, started doing that. So at the end of my races, or at the end of all the races that the athletes do, they pick up a blue line flag from a spectator or a loved one, and they finish the race carrying a blue line flag. Now, we also have race kits that, signify that we are Team Blue Line. But that's where it started back in 2015, and it's gone on from there. And we've helped people all throughout the country, and helping people's kids go through private schooling, and the service dog area that we just dabbled into here recently. Just a plethora of things that we help these families out for.
Well, and it's worth your time just to come out, even if you don't walk, run, or roll.
Oh, sure. Come out and support.
So come out and support. Yeah. Listen to it. David, to see David pick up that flag, and we're not talking about one of these handheld little waving flags that some of us have. This is a full-size flag, and he takes off with that. And of course, he's well ahead of me. And you know what? We're going to talk more about that, because I want to cover that. Because to see David carry that flag is pretty impressive. We're going to be back at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. And just like that, we are back. Thank you for continuing to stay with us here on Sundays from 1 to 3. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. We appreciate everybody out there, and we know you're supporting and backing our station. Without you, we couldn't bring you this wonderful programming that we put together on the weekends, where we have more live talk than any other station in Central Illinois. First, we start with Ty Smith on Saturday, Steve Cease, and myself. We're going to continue that because you are able to support us. And you can do that also not only by going to any of the many sponsors you hear that advertise and support them, because we support local businesses. We are committed to local businesses, but we are also committed to backing the blue. And in studio, I have my friend, also former officer and representative of Team Blue Line, David Quinn. And if you'd like to text him anything on our text line, that's 309-807-1600. That's 309-807-1600. Or you can call in at 309-451-9299. That's 309-451-9299. Before we went to the break, this is the exciting part about what David does with this honor run every Tuesday night at Tipton Trails on the south side of the park along GE Road. If you're heading east towards Airport Road, it is just before that. That's where we gather. We go over the fallen heroes for that week. Unfortunately, we have to read names. It will be nice to participate one week where we don't have to read anybody's names and we can all go home and I don't have to walk, but I would do it over and over for the families that suffer through this. And we want to definitely be mindful of the fallen hero recently in Ella French and her partner Carlos, who is battling for his life as we speak. David has already brought it to our attention. We have another officer. We're not going to release any real details about that was shot and killed or shot.
He was just shot. Yeah.
Shot. He was shot up north.
Just shot up north in Kalamazoo County, Michigan. And I got a really close friend up there that's actually a Michigan State trooper. We've been corresponding back and forth, and I saw the post, and I did a little bit of research on the actual incident. So, yeah, just prayers for that particular deputy up there, and we'll go from there and see where we're at.
And this is part of what you do, and this is part of why David has taken it upon himself to coordinate this weekly event, which we would love for you to participate in. And before we went to break, we were talking about this full-size flag that David carries along the journey that night. He runs. I've seen him run a 5K with it. I don't know how. It's obviously beyond his human capability. I know that David is a prayerful man and he has a heart for people, and it's through that power of prayer that he is able to carry a flag. I sure couldn't carry a flag that long, but tell us a little bit more about the flag, David.
Well, the flag, I mean, that was a thing that Chad Wallace came up with a while back in 2015 and started running with the flag. Now, Chad, he'll do the entire marathon at the end of an Ironman race, carrying the flag.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's 26.2 miles of carrying that flag. And in the wind and stuff like that. I mean, doing a 5K is hard enough, but usually the athletes that finish the races, they'll just grab it at the end of the race and they'll just carry it over the finish line and get some recognition that way. But we do carry the flag every week down GE Road. You'll see us. We've got some good honks out there. Most people with good honks, that's great. You stop in and see us and support us that way. But we also got the people that, yell profanities at us and flip us off and tell us that we're number one.
Yeah.
But in a different matter. But those are good too. Those people are just not educated as far as what we're doing out there with this particular blue line flag. So if they want to stop by and have a chat with me too, I would love to have a chat with them.
Well, and that's the thing. This respecting life, and especially respecting those people that put on the uniform. I get why there is so much divisiveness around this issue of law enforcement backing the blue, defunding the police, whatever you want to, whatever theme you want to apply to it. It's sad because it's intentional. Because at the end of the day, the guys that put on the uniform, whether that's a nurse's uniform, a firefighter's, or a police officer, they're people. They have families. Ella French, Tony, I know you're aware of this over there, that she just had given birth to David. David's giving me the wave off.
I think that was a first original statement that came out as
okay.
Thing
No,
that came out.
no, I need to stand correct.
She did not give birth 2 months ago. She is not a mother at this particular time. She left behind a brother, a bunch of nephews, and her mother, of course.
Thank you for correcting us, because we've been reporting that on this radio station, so that's not true.
That is not true.
But what a perfect example. We have been running with that story, so we stand corrected here at Cities 92.9. We do not want to mislead people here, but it's kind of sad. Once again, the news cycle reports things. We grab a hold of it.
Right.
I'm glad you brought me up to speed. That did seem more impactful, and I don't know why these stories get told or why they get pushed out there so quickly. But irregardless, she still lost her life.
Yeah, she did. And that
29 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, that's half my age.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We've got that dispatch call. Can we pull that up real quick? This is just a short run of what happened last Saturday night. And while we have David in studio with us, I'd like to play that. Go ahead, Tony.
Got an officer down, 10-1, 10-1, 6-3 in Bell. Officer down, shots fired at the police. Let's remember to set up 3 blocks north, south, east, west of that location. I got a male black in a blue shirt. Listen to the officer. Officer's going to Holy Cross. That's down the trauma center. We got to get him to a trauma center, guys. Take him to UFC there, trauma center.
That gets you going. I can't imagine what that does to you, because you live that.
When I heard that, they released it really quick. I didn't think they were going to release that particular that evidence very quickly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That's evidence. But that just threw me right back. I was right there, responding to the call again. My heart rate went up.
You didn't sleep that night. That's what you had said.
No, it was terrible. I had maybe 2 hours of broken sleep that night, just thinking about the officers that were up there and what they were dealing with. And again, they got to deal with their administration and the things that go on with those things too. So those guys, their hands are tied up there. And the dispatcher, let's get back to him. The guy did a fabulous job of handling that. Now, I'm not sure how many officers that he's got under his control at that particular time, but all I can speak was for our dispatchers here. They do a tremendous job at what they do, and they're good at it. And he knew exactly what was going on that day, and he was given some orders out there just to stay off his air, because he had officers down.
And once again, to be mindful of our fallen heroes like Ella French, and we don't know the arrangements yet, and we're praying for Carlos, and we're praying for the officer who was shot up in Michigan. And this is something that goes on every day, and this is why we back the blue here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We know that this is where we're committed. We're committed, and this supersedes any political lines. This isn't about Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party. This is about America. And we are a nation of law and order. We have a constitution that dictates it. Granted, we can sit and argue till the cows come home here in McLean County, but it doesn't do away with what is happening day in, day out across this country. You know, just not in Chicago. It's happening in rural, everywhere.
I mean, it's even in our local community here in Bloomington Normal too. I mean, I worked this area for over 30 years in law enforcement, and we have some of the best law enforcement officers and first responders. I work with a lot of the people at the hospital, a lot of the firemen. We have a great community, and we have great people that work this area.
Yes, we do. And that is something that I've always appreciated. No matter what's happening in the politics of our two communities, I know that the people who are out there on the front lines, our law enforcement, our firefighters, our first responders, our hospital workers, they're going in, putting in their time day in, day out. And, you know, we don't do enough of shouting them out, but I want to give a shout out to every one of those people right now. If you can hear our voice, we have a special day to honor those folks. And it's coming up August 29th at GE Park. It's from 2 to 4. We have the Back the Blue rally. We're going to have a full lineup of events that day. We have some keynote speakers. I know that Senator Darren Bailey, gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey, will be there. I've heard rumor of other speakers, but I'm waiting to get confirmation from the directors of that event to make sure I can release those. I know you're going to be there.
I will be there. We will have a Team Blue Line tent set up, so come by and say hi. I will also, like last year, jump up on stage and I'll talk a little bit, but we have some good news, and I just found out the other day that the founder of Team Blue Line is coming to Central Illinois going towards Iowa, and he's going to stop and he's going to chat and get up on stage and talk about Team Blue Line. So that is great news that the founder, Chad Wallace, retired Georgia police officer, is coming through town, and he's going to stand up and talk. So I only get like 2 or 3 minutes, and he'll take like 10.
Well, and the Team Blue Line shot ski wear, the T-shirts and the hats. I bought one of each from David last year, and it's one of the best hats I've ever had. I've had more people comment on that logo on that hat, and they thought it was cool. I'd be in a restaurant, people would stop by and they'd say, "Hey, is that like the Predator, or what is that all about?"
The first time I met Ty,
yes,
he bought a hat from me. And the next picture I saw of Ty, he was in the White House with my hat on. Team Blue Line.
Team Blue Line made it to the White House.
Made the White House. Just because of the Renaissance Man.
The Renaissance Man goes places.
Oh, yeah.
You're with him more than any of us, but it's pretty impressive. And I know Ty's going to be at the Back the Blue rally.
Yeah.
I know, and I don't want to give all the speakers away, but I know that Darren Bailey's going to be there, Ty Smith's going to be there, but I know there are a couple others. And we'll continue to keep you apprised of everything that's going on. And David, obviously, is going to continue to be with us in studio leading up to that event and beyond. David's got another big special thing coming up October 9th.
October 9th.
Go ahead. Tell us about it.
So I've been training or going for this particular personal goal since 2006, which is the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. Mm-hmm. I finally made it to the big show. So October 9th of this year, I was supposed to do it last year, but of course we were all locked down.
Yep.
And so we transferred everything over to this year. So this year, October 9th, I'll be racing on the Queen K there with all the other pros. But I'll be doing it as an age grouper. I'll be out there, and I'm going to put this challenge out there for everybody. And there'll be a link on the Cities 92.9 webpage,
yes,
and a Facebook page. To get on there, there's a fundraiser, and my goal is to raise $2,500 between now and October 9th.
And that money, David, goes to?
Team Blue Line.
Team Blue Line. See,
the families.
this isn't to buy David's one-way ticket to Hawaii. Well, it'd be one way, right? Because you wouldn't come back. He took the money and run. No, that's an old song. I'm just throwing it out there. David is committed to this effort, and I hope that you will support him. We are going to take a break here shortly, and when we come back, we're going to give that information again, talk about the upcoming events with not only Team Blue Line, but with Back the Blue, and all things mask mandate. We're going to wrap things up before we head out of here. We do appreciate you staying with us through the break. I'm David Paul Blumenshine here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. It never is long enough. I'm David Paul Blumenshine here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm pretty certain we're going to get to 3 hours at some point in my career in radio, because it seems like we just get started, which is kind of the theme of everything that I've been doing in my life over the past 4 years. We are just getting started. I want to assure you that this is the case. We are going to truly restore Illinois in all this craziness. When people say, well, the pendulum, it will swing back. It is going to swing back. I tell people, God's not going to let America fail, but God needs us to be the foot soldiers in the action. He's never acted in the history of man without going through people. And it's people like, Darren Bailey, Ty Smith, many people who host shows on Cities 92.9, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Dan Bongino. Those are the voices that are out there. And you may or may not agree with them all the time, but I know one thing. They make you think. And that's what we're here to do, is make you think. Hey, it's been a great hour that we've had. We've had David Quinn in studio with us. He is a former police officer. He's a friend of mine. He's a marathon. Well, not a marathon. Well, he's a marathoner because he's an Ironman. He's going to be competing in the next Ironman here on October 9th, right?
That's correct. Ironman World Championship, October 9th in Kona, Hawaii.
And he's been training, and this has been the ideal, right? This has been the top.
Original goal back in 2006 when I first started this venture.
And now you're getting there.
And I'm there.
And now I'm also going to keep you, because I know my wife, the audience knows that I mention my wife often, especially in this show, because at the beginning of it, we didn't know if we were on air or off air, or if you guys were getting feedback. And thankfully, my beautiful bride, she texted me and said, there's nothing wrong. This just must be in the studio. But Tony got it all worked out. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate you. But your wife also is
she's an athlete. She's actually getting ready for Ironman Wisconsin, which comes up September 12th. So a big shout out to her. She's ready for this race. And, she texted me a little ago and just said, tell everybody that how much you love me.
Well, and
so here it is.
There you go.
For my wife.
This is what we need to do when we're on the airs. We need to make sure that we are supporting those who support us. And it's awesome to watch the two of you, because you've taken this on, not only the Team Blue Line, but you guys ride. You live what you're putting out there. You guys are fitness gurus.
It's definitely a lifestyle that we chose, and we love it to death. We just got off the bike after a 70-mile ride just this morning, and quick change of the clothes, and came to the studio.
Now, how long has she been competing in? She's
been competing in Ironman races or triathlon probably for the last 7-8 years. But she did some. She was a marathoner prior to that. She's done probably 30 or 40 marathons.
Wow. Tony, how many marathons have you done?
Absolutely none.
That'd be 0. You and I combined, we got 0. So these guys
I've got some openings on my coaching.
There we go.
There you go. Well, real
for
quick,
a long while I couldn't.
Real quick. And I want you to tell the story, because we're running up against the end of the show. But yeah. Tony is a success story in itself. Tony was a lot larger of a person. How much weight have you lost over the last couple of years?
I'd say I'm 170 now, so 110 pounds.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
110 pounds. My daughter, when she first saw Tony in studio, she goes, Dad, that's not Tony that I knew.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's a whole person. Just went away. So kudos for you, Tony. And I know you've done it through watching what you eat, being health conscious and doing things that you do. And so kudos to you. Well, before we get off the air, it's been a great pleasure having David. David will be back in studio to keep us abreast of what's going on leading up to the big event on August 29th. The Back the Blue Rally will be at GE Park. Actually, we still call it GE Park. It has change of ownership. But right there on GE Road, it's from 2 to 4. There's going to be many guest speakers there. It's big. We at Cities 92.9 will be there because we back the blue. We wouldn't have it any other way. And we encourage all of you to also back the blue. And you can get signs here at Cities 92.9.
Cat's the MC, right?
And Kat is going to be the MC. I didn't realize that. They just brought that up when Kat was out at the Freedom Rally on Friday, that she would be MCing that event. So we're looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to having Kat back in studio because she is so much of a wealth of inspiration for the future, just like Tony. To see these young people really bringing forth their hearts, their ideas, their thoughts, because that's what it's about. It's about our future. It's about our grandchildren, our children, and our grandchildren. And it is vital that we continue to establish a foundation where we can truly live up to the Constitution of the United States, the home of the brave, the land of the free. Hey, we look forward to next week. Appreciate you being here today. I'm David Paul Blumenshine at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.